Morgan to the Warriors and Roses podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I'm really glad to have this chance to talk to you and hear your story.
Thank you. I'm psyched to be here.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, we reconnected recently because you're in the process of writing your book
Yes.
and about what you've been through over the past few years. I'm not even sure yet of the span. We'll talk about that here of, when it started, but experiences with mental health and your support systems failing you, and all the things that changed in your life and your career as a result of that. And you made a post on LinkedIn that I'm
Hmm.
sure for you was really like, really letting a lot of people know. But it was the thing for me is the moment I saw it, I was like, oh, this is a great podcast conversation that I want to have. This is exactly what my podcast is about, is the fight that creatives have to deal with who they are as a creative and how they exist in the world and the business world and all the fights that we have to do.
Yeah.
So I reached out right away and said, when you're ready, and you're like, I'm ready.
Yeah, I was excited. I mean, I think in the message I said this, could very well be career suicide. LinkedIn
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
platform that I have tried to look as professional as I can, and
Yep.
everybody does. So to go on there and admit that you have a disability, a mental health problem,
Yeah.
and you've been through some crap, was scary. But actually, the publisher that I'm working with encouraged me to do it because I'm in a promotional phase now for this, um, and it was kind of like a rip the Band-Aid
Yeah.
off kind of
Yeah.
situation. But I swear to God, as soon as I did it and posted it, I was monitoring that while I was on a Zoom call with the publisher and a few other writers. And I got the note from you, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like this is exactly what I wanted to happen." And he's like,
Yes.
"See."
Yes. Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and you and I were talking earlier about the reach too. Of,
Yeah.
I've after that post, I had not only you respond, but a lot of other people respond that were just like, my dad, my brother, my mom, I've had issues.
Mm.
It's amazing how people, once you kind of open yourself up, people feel the comfort to do the same.
Yes. Yes. And that just shows how much we have hidden away.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things that really struck me and I wanted to talk about because, setting the stage a little bit here, you and I, we know each other from the North Face. That's where we worked together.
Yeah.
Years ago, I was leading outerwear design when I think you started to lead the graphics
Practice.
department. And
Yes.
we had to work together quite a lot. And very professional relationships, and we all held it together and did a lot of amazing work. And we've stayed connected over the years. And I know that you've worked at a ton of other places like, Levi's, Old Navy, MedMen, Nike, like before
Yeah.
and after. Um, it, being kind of Gen X creatives, I think we're all of that same generation as we were moving through these jobs. I think we both know what it means to do meaningful creative work with dignity and integrity. We wanted to,
Yeah.
especially in the corporate systems. Like they don't always make that easy to do. And we've all had our own experiences in there. I've spent a lot of time with Structure Society over the last decade, talking with other creatives of our generation who, working in these corporate environments, felt a strong sense that their work didn't it didn't matter as much as other types of work, the creative work that we did. So there was a lot of internal
Yeah.
struggle. But since I've been connecting with a lot of people, I've been hearing all of the private like problems, like the challenges, the job loss, the divorces, the health issues, the mental health issues are
Yeah.
huge. They've come up in my podcasts before. And there's been a lot of shame for people around all of these challenges, ageism, all of these different things that everyone has been afraid to talk about. Even like people would get on like on a call with me and they talk in a hushed voice about it,
Yeah.
and they don't. So putting it on LinkedIn, putting it on social media, like the later generations are doing a lot more of, was just like you said, the idea of career suicide, and that
Yeah.
somebody is going to see it, hear it, not call you, and then the older that we get, the calls happen less and less and less. So this is something that I am trying to share with everyone, that we all have a story. We all have something to share. Yeah,
You
go
know what?
ahead.
I mean, almost everything you mentioned, I experienced, definitely
Yep.
ageism right now. Like, I feel
Yep.
like the corporate world has retired me a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Um, but I even felt, you talk about the creatives thinking they don't have a place or their work isn't important. I went two levels down on that, and I always felt my role within a creative organization was low,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and mainly just because I worked on t-shirts, which is, fun but not important.
Not important,
Yeah.
but a huge part of so many people's
Oh, a
business
huge part of culture. I mean,
and
look at me
culture.
now. I'm back to designing teachers
Yeah.
t-shirts because I love it. The thing that was getting me down about the career was, for me, just because of the places that I landed, very cool opportunities, but very little purpose-driven work.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
actually experienced something in Old Navy, and on the flip side, that was like a factory of creativity. But then I got an opportunity to my boss at the time, Jill Stanton. She wanted to do she wanted to do an event to raise money for a woman that was on staff that had been diagnosed with colorectal cancer. And I jumped at the chance because, I was directing t-shirts, so I wasn't even doing the stuff. I was just going to the meetings and having the fights and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I jumped on it. I designed a really, really meaningful, modern experience that I think everybody was pretty blown away from. I mean, what you kind of picture in your mind of something that this could be is like a little stand in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what we did is like an interactive sort of design contest around Erica and her inspiration. And we ended up, for her organization that we were raising money for, I forget what it was, but obviously around colorectal cancer research.
Yeah.
I think we raised like $30,000 or something great,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
after that experience, I was just, every job I had after that, well, there weren't many after that, but what I sought after that was purpose. And I got it in my next job. I worked for a big cannabis company, and I
Yeah.
found purpose in that because, I have used cannabis for years as medicine.
Yeah.
And that's actually kind of what got me through undiagnosed, undiagnosed bipolar and, my whole
Wow.
life, to be honest.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, but anyway, yeah. So I was going along trying to find purpose, and when I actually, and I'll go more into this later, but when I hit rock bottom and I was trying to find just my soul, you know, I went back to creativity, but
Yeah.
I twisted it with a purpose.
Mm.
So I created an apparel line called Make Love, which celebrates love and togetherness and all the good vibes.
Yeah.
And that will give 10% to Mental Health America, which is the nation's leading mental health nonprofit. Now,
Oh,
when I
that's
get
great.
really successful, I'm currently working with a small agency that has promised me they have the secrets of scaling. So where I'm currently like rebuilding that line,
Great.
but
Oh,
I'd love to be
awesome.
like 25, 50%,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
guy who started Tom's. Do
Uh-huh.
you know that guy? And he's now
Yep.
doing the Enough
Yes.
campaign.
Yes. I've seen that. Mm-hmm.
He gives
Yeah.
everything to charity. I mean, that
Yeah.
would be my grand. I mean, I've got to live, so I need to make some money, but I would love to just give back as much as I could.
Yeah. Well, I can really feel it also. Like I'm getting chills constantly as you're talking, because it's clear that you've been through something and that you've come out with an even more renewed sense of purpose, and that
Yes.
there's this reclamation that started to come up in as we were talking to, and that's what I wanted to really talk about today, is that that rebuilding your self-worth and reclaiming, and after a major life challenge and all the different things that happen with that, and how love and truth and creativity can be part of that return. Because for me, I'm all in about supporting creatives and artists and all the things that we go through to help invent the things in the world that don't exist yet. Like we
Yeah.
have to go to some pretty dark and deep places to do that. And that's something I've always understood about creatives. So that's where my passion is. And every creative has their own challenge and story. Um, so I want to start with hearing your story
Yeah.
and, you know, of like what happened and, you know, wherever you want to start and where you want to take us through to today and where we're going.
Okay, I'm a talker, so you have to.
Okay, great.
But no, it's so pandemic. We were all kind of isolated. I actually lost my job at that cannabis company along with everybody right before the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic, and so I wasn't going into there on a good footing. And just
Wow.
one night, I was putting my son to bed, and I just started bawling. Like I was literally just in bed with him, and I just started bawling and got out of there. And then my wife came down and said, "What's wrong?" I told her how bad I'd been feeling, the pressure of the massive mortgage we had, the pressure of unemployment. Our relationship had been strained.
Wow. Yeah.
And I told her also that throughout my life, I had had suicidal ideation. And it's something that I never ever talked about, and it's nothing I ever wanted to pop into my head,
Mm-hmm.
but it would. And I later would find out why. But anyway, she said, "Well, yeah, you probably need to go talk to somebody." I agreed. I wanted to talk to somebody. All of the psychologists were all booked at that point. They're months out. So I went straight to a psychiatrist. I'd never been to either, so I talked to her like I would a psychologist and just bawled my eyes out. Told her,
Mm.
I wasn't happy in my marriage, that I was missing the world, all this stuff. And she said, well, she diagnosed me with depression and asked me if I'd be willing to take a class of drugs called SSRI, which
Mm.
are designed to build serotonin in your system. And they work great for people who are depressed,
Right,
who
right.
need that extra happiness, hormone. But after about 6 months, I started seeing a lot of changes in myself. I was moving real quickly. I had to always be busy, or I was like, running circles in my brain and felt like I was like not
Hmm.
comfortable in my skin almost. My
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
body odor changed. I started talking faster. Um, and I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't get enough projects. So anyway, oh, what happened one night is what was happening to me is I was being pushed into mania. And that gradual push into mania, the way I felt was ultra clear. And it made me want to solve my marriage problem immediately. So
Mm.
I walked into the kitchen, and as soon as I opened my mouth, I started stuttering. And
Oh.
my wife that was there was first like kind of looking at me with concern. And then all of a sudden, and I'm just sitting there saying, suddenly,
Oh.
everything's coming down on me. Like, you won't see the kids, your money's gone. Like,
In your
and she
head, in your head, in
in
your
my
head.
head,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I'm just sitting there saying, and suddenly she got this complete look of fear and started darting her eyes around the kitchen. And I followed her eyes. And suddenly she was like, I need you to leave. I couldn't talk. So she led me out the front door. We were living in LA at the time. I had
Okay.
bought a dilapidated mansion in a beautiful African American neighborhood. And kind of just didn't push me, but closed the door behind me. And I just kind of melted down out there because I was in a full-blown panic attack.
You
And I
couldn't
know
even tell her
probably
anything. Yeah,
I couldn't
like,
tell her anything. I think her assumption was I needed to go walk it off, but that's
oh,
not what I needed at all. If you've ever had a major panic attack, and I've had several,
yes.
you feel like you're going to die, like death
Mm-hmm.
is impending.
Mm-hmm.
It's often when
Mm-hmm.
my suicidal ideation would come in my head is like a
Yeah.
way to end the pain that you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling at the moment. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm outside melting down. At this point, I need tons of water. Like for the past few months, I've been consuming tons of water just because my energy was up. And I remember trying to go around the side of the house, but I was so paranoid. I was going to get a hose, but I was so paranoid I ran back. And then an ambulance went by, and I knew I needed help, and I started chasing. Then I stopped. I was like, "What are you crazy? It doesn't work that way, you
Wow.
know." So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm melting down, and finally, I had my phone, and finally, she says, "Should I send an ambulance?" And I could barely operate my fingers, just like my mouth,
Wow.
but I was able to get off a yes.
Yeah.
The ambulance crew shows up, and I'm like paranoid as all get out. And I present, and a sheriff comes. There's a sheriff car and the ambulance. So the sheriff
Wow.
comes, and I'm like, I present myself like this. And he says, "Relax, son, I'm here to help you." And then I was able to communicate with the ambulance drivers that I was under the influence of drugs, prescription drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And they put me in the back of an ambulance once they understood that. And then
Mm-hmm.
time went by. It felt like 5 or 10 minutes. Suddenly they opened the ambulance doors again and they handcuffed me to the gurney. And
Wow.
I needed water. My mouth, they wouldn't give me even an ice chip. Anyway, speed me
Wow.
off to a hospital. I go into triage. I have a really frightening experience in triage where I'm still in a panic mode and there's about 10 people around me and they're all shouting things at me to try to stir me.
Yeah.
And I remember, this is kind of funny, but the thing that got me out of that was this was right around the Capitol insurrection, just like a week after.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a black gentleman, on staff said, shouted like Donald Trump. I shot up and I said, Donald Trump is a racist. And they all started laughing and then whisked me in to get a brain scan. Then they gave me a
Wow.
bag to sedate me, and I was aware of there was a doctor and two people that were in my triage that were then taking notes. And I don't know if it was them or the sheriff, probably the sheriff. They did a 5150 on me. So they, at that point, committed me for 72 hours to a different what's the word?
Yeah.
Establishment, psych
What
ward.
what's a 5150 for
The
anybody?
5150 is a type of hold that a variety of people can put on you. I think it's a doctor, a policeman, somebody else can say that you need a psychiatric hold for 72 hours. It's basically like a jail.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Incarceration is basically what it is.
Can
So,
you I want to let you keep going on your story, but I have so many
yeah,
questions
yeah. You
until we
ask
get
ask the question.
yeah, I'm kind of coming back on this is for because I've heard some of this and not all of it. I'm getting all of the details now. And
Yeah.
um, having a partner who's a, musician and composer, who had panic attacks during COVID and
Oh, yeah.
having experienced that as well and going like when you're on the other side of it and you're watching somebody go through that and you've never experienced it. I know my mother has gone through panic attacks, but I've never experienced them with her. You don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But you also have a different situation with your wife at the time. Why? I mean, you never even got to tell her anything that you wanted. Why did she know you needed an ambulance? And why did the police show up with that?
You know, later, my doctor, my original prescribing doctor that got it wrong, said you should have never gone in an ambulance. You should have gone in an Uber if your wife couldn't take you. I don't want to say too much, but my wife was obviously super scared, and that took over her action.
Okay.
I am sure that when the sheriff showed up and he's talking to my wife and I'm in the ambulance, he has an obligation to say, is he a harm to you or is he a harm to
Right.
himself?
Right.
And if she's being completely honest, and I'm sure she was and she did.
Yep.
Um, she said yes, he has said that he could be a harm to himself.
Yes.
Um,
These are and having a martial arts teacher who was a police officer and sheriff, and I've gone on
so
ride-alongs.
that
Yes, yes, there's all these different things in our system that people can and can't do or will do or legally they're the funnel, right, that make things happen. And so I wanted to
yeah,
just draw attention to that as well as how this started to go into that direction. So
yeah.
please go ahead.
So then I stay there overnight, and it's the height of COVID. I'm in the hallway of the emergency room. There's two other guys with me. Neither one of them can talk. They're laid out on gurneys too.
Well,
And then in the mid morning, another ambulance company comes by and says, "Hey, we're going to transport you to this facility." I was still kind of out of it. I didn't really
mm-hmm,
understand what was going on generally.
mm-hmm.
And then when they got me on there, they said, "We got to handcuff you, part of procedure." I was like, I just did it. Okay.
Yeah.
Then anyway, they took me down to a facility down south called Alhambra. And I remember they wheeling me up to one of the doors and this big dude with scrubs, but he had it open and a big old tattoo visible. He was behind the door. He said this, and I would later find out that that meant they were full. They
Oh.
took me to this other section, which is not the section I should have been in for like a major or even minor panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
It was it was a nightmare situation. Like getting
Wow.
transferred in there and getting going through the intake, the people were like, "What did you do?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I had a panic attack." Where I ended up being put that first night for 24 hours or 12 hours was it was the most acute section you could be in. So
Oh.
just full of like everybody off the street and like there was
Mm-hmm.
no sense of sanity in that place. And
Mm.
find yourself in that place. The first thing you want to do to try to help yourself doesn't work. Nobody believes that you shouldn't be there. I went up to everything. I say, I don't think I should be in this facility.
Yeah. Yeah.
People were way off, you know?
Yeah.
So
Because you
anyway, I
can't
stayed
get you, so you can't
there.
get yourself out of there.
No, you can. You can, no, I'm on a 72-hour hold, but I certainly knew that like this was way more acute than I was, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, stayed in there till I could get out and spent the last 2 days in the normal section. But the fact that it was completely overcrowded, nobody was wearing masks. And I think it was the same kind of level of, I don't want to say crazy, but there's a lot of different levels of crazy. I'm just saying that, you know, not to
Yeah.
disparage anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I can say it.
We're all on some level of it.
Uh,
It's just
but
being a human.
anyway, they had a COVID outbreak there. I got out of there, you know, back home, and I was back home for a few days, and then got back in touch with my original prescribing doctor. She said, "We want to have a Zoom call with you tomorrow." This is about 3 or 4 days in, and we have a Zoom call, and she says, "I am changing my diagnosis with you. You're not depressed, you're bipolar." And I just kind of sat back, and this is before I knew anything, and just shook my head. The bipolar people that I had known, I knew one, and she died when she was 24
Oh. Mm-hmm.
because of like circumstances, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know anybody that ever got diagnosed at 52.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really skeptical, but I said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" She goes, "I want you to change medicine immediately." And I had been researching what it would take to detox off of the stuff I'd been made to take. And I wasn't comfortable with just switching. She wanted me to switch overnight in my home. And she
Mm.
said she was getting all mad with me. And I was like, she goes, "Fine, well, you can come to check yourself into UCLA for a few days and have them manage your." And I looked over at my ex, who I wasn't getting along with. I was like, "Deal, let's go." And so I
Mm-hmm.
went in there. It was supposed to be 3 days. It ended up being 5 days. Then came home. And I had and not an argument. I found out that my wife had called my dad, and when I asked her about it, she lied. And it was just the last thing that set me off. And I yelled at her. And we typically had never yelled at each other, but during the pandemic, our fighting had sort of escalated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that was in the kitchen. I said, "Don't call my dad." And there was also a thing about she wanted to get into the management of my medicine. I said, "I will manage my body and I will manage my medicine." But I
Mm-hmm.
was, you know, I was very upset. And she went upstairs, and then a little bit later, I went up there, and we met in the living in the bedroom. And she suddenly held her phone up like she was filming me because I went up to her. I was like,
Oh.
"Do I make?" I was like, "Did I make my point?" And suddenly she's like, "Police!" and yells for the police in our house. And I just kind of backed up and went outside and did what I was going to do, keep myself busy. And 15 minutes later, she comes out, and this is 9 o'clock on a Sunday. 15 minutes later, she comes out with the kids, put them in the car, and leaves, and doesn't come back.
So
And
when is this in this whole process of, because you're still together, but you haven't been getting along during COVID. You're back
yeah,
from and your medication, had it been changed at that point? Or did
no.
that
So
was later?
so when we had the Zoom, that's
Yeah.
when she wanted to change me to lithium,
Yeah. Okay.
to bipolar medication. So
Yeah.
I went into UCLA to do so. And I literally, with the dose of lithium I was on, I currently am on 900 milligrams per day. I take it twice.
Okay.
They had me on 12 or 1300 once a day. And after I took that, I was like, I mean, I was holding my coffee cup like this, shaking,
Is that
you
what it
know?
does for you? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was
Okay.
dragging my foot.
Yeah.
And at that point, I took these huge bottles of medicine and threw them in the toilet, flushed them, quit group therapy. And then I just got into a stalemate with my ex.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So to move forward, months went by and I'm in mania. And I will tell you, parts of mania are beautiful. Parts of mania you feel really good, but you are right on the thin line of psychosis.
Okay. Can you tell, like, to help other people understand what the definition of mania is?
You know why I didn't recognize something was happening to me at first? Because I was taking antidepressants and I expected to feel
Ah.
better.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
kept on feeling better, 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 better. I mean, all I can describe it is like you feel like you're on drugs or sort of this euphoric
That
drip, you know?
euphoria that you're always up in this kind of
Yeah, yeah. And what's
headspace.
really interesting to me about all of this is, you know, um, and super interesting is that when you're in mania, you feel good about yourself. You feel like you can do things. You
Mm-hmm.
feel like, that you can do anything. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a heightened sense of self. And it goes too far, you start thinking you're Jesus and you can help everyone and things like that. But at a
It's like
mild
when they say
level,
Beatlemania, it's like any of these kind of manias where you're like going over the top. You're just kind of like
yeah,
always in this like, yeah, right.
yeah. I mean, I found a level of magnetism during this
Mm-hmm.
time. Like
Okay.
things came to me, people came to me. I vibed with people in a very authentic
Wow.
way,
Yeah, yeah.
in a way that I never had before.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's why, and I hope I'm not jumping around too much, but that's why how bipolar people get into trouble is they try to hold off on their meds so they can replace that sort of euphoric feeling, you know, and
Yeah.
then they get in trouble. So there I was in LA and I was, just kind of on a holding pattern. I wasn't working. I was trying to get work, but I was not in a good state to go through interviews. I botched a few.
Yeah, yeah.
But the months went on, and finally, I decided I was going to divorce my wife. I hired
Mm,
a lawyer who got me access to my kids who were in Portland. That's where she went. And I went for my first visit, and I went to go stay with my sister, who had kind of been worked into the visitation arrangements.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But as soon as I showed up, and I showed up at my sister's house right before she did, when she showed up, she read me the riot act on everything I'd done in my whole life to piss her off. She found that this was the right time and
Wow.
literally told me to sit down and she was going to put a timer on me. And of course, I'm in mania. So I'm like, oh, hell no. And she chases me around her house yelling at me and chased me down to her son's bedroom yelling at me. I told her I was going to get an Airbnb and she threatened not to cooperate with this visitation. So
Mm,
I had the visitation, and it was weird because it's the first time she'd seen my kids since COVID, besides the time that she visited once before.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Anyway, it was an awful weekend. It was a good weekend with my kids, but awful weekend with her. And I went
Yeah,
home just in the worst state ever. Like
yeah,
my marriage was falling apart. My closest familial relations are falling apart.
yeah.
Um, and I wasn't sleeping. I had a visit the next 2 weeks, and I was desperately trying to sleep. I wasn't
Mm,
sleeping this whole time because, if I get pushed into mania, it's just energy, energy, energy.
yeah,
Could not fall asleep.
yeah. And that
And this
just
certainly,
compounds.
yeah, I did. I lost 25 pounds during all this. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
crazy. Okay, so 2 weeks go by. I haven't slept much. I'm on the edge. I feel okay, but I'm jittery. I'm actually decided to go back a day early to make amends with my sister.
Mm,
And so that morning of traveling, I didn't sleep much that night. I was the most prepared I'd ever been for a flight because I had so much time to get ready without the sleep, that I figured I would sleep on the plane and, eat in the airport. And I started putting my luggage out on the curb. And I lived on a pretty busy street, so it probably wasn't a great idea. But I got all my stuff out there, and then I remembered something. I went inside real quick, And when I was coming out, this Prius was beside my luggage. And I thought in my quick head, I was like, oh, I must have called an Uber. And the woman, when I walked up, she was putting my stuff in her trunk and then suddenly looked like this when I walked up. I was like, that's okay, I'll get the rest. And I got the other bags in there. And I remembered when I looked in the car, I was like, this is a dirty ass Uber. But I put
Yeah.
it in and I shut the thing and she took off.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Wow. Oh,
So I hit psychosis. So I was
yeah.
up there in Mania, right? And
Hmm.
the lack of sleep, all the stuff I'd experienced with my sister, because she and I went back and forth that 2 weeks and it was awful.
Yeah.
The pressure of all my stuff. And I was going to go back and have my best presentation of myself. I had my best clothes, my best bag, all of it gone. And I went blank. I went blank. I went blackout.
Wow.
The next thing I know, I'm on the side of a car, like an old SUV with that has running the things on the side, the running boards. And there's a guy in the driver's seat looking back at me as he's going about probably 30 miles an hour, maybe 35. And I just looked at him and I remember smiling, and he smiled too, but he didn't slow down.
You were on
I
his
didn't,
car.
I was on the side of his car. He was going about 35. Yeah. And I came to on his car. Like that's when I came into consciousness. I was hanging
Wow.
onto his car. And I thought, oh my God, this guy's not going to stop. I better bail. So I bailed. And I
Mm.
had an out-of-body experience. As soon as I bailed off, I remember I jumped to sort of get to hit with my chest. It was like I was suddenly up in the air about 90 feet,
Hmm.
looking down at me about 45-degree angles. It looked like a security camera. And I saw myself roll across the street, pick myself
Wow.
and brush myself off, and then lights out again. I'm unconscious.
Wow.
The next thing I know is
Wow.
the next thing I know is I am face to face with probably a 70-year-old African American woman. She was wearing pink, I remember. And I'm 3 blocks down from my house, or 4 blocks. And my instinct was to hug her, which I did. That's my last memory, doing that and then blackout.
Wow.
But apparently, what happened when I hugged her, we both fell down. And she was easy. I mean, this wasn't sexual or anything. This was just an embrace.
Yeah.
She was easily, apparently, able to get me off. And I apparently went on the curb and just sat there. And the police were called because the guy whose car I was on stopped
Okay.
because he saw.
Yeah.
So what the police report said is that the guy said I just jumped on his car. I don't know if I thought that he was in cahoots with the person who took my luggage. I
Or
have
maybe
no idea
you're
what I was
trying to
thinking,
keep
or even
up.
if I did think.
Yeah, go after your luggage. That was my first thought was I'm gonna follow this car.
Well, they said that like I jumped on the car, I jumped off the car, I rolled across the street, I got up, brushed myself off, and then they said I meandered around these 4 lanes of busy street that's
Oh,
in front of my house
wow. Wow.
until I made a beeline for a telephone pole, which I hugged. And then after I hugged the telephone pole, I went over to that woman, hugged her. We fell down. We were against a 45-degree sort of embankment of ivy. We fell
Hmm.
into that. And then the cops were called.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I am going in and out of consciousness.
Yeah.
The I remember being in the cop car, and I had 2 phones at the time because I was transitioning to a new phone, new number,
Hmm.
and they only took one. And so with my yoga skills, I was able to get my cuffed hands in front of me, and I pulled out my phone, and I still got the movie from inside. And I was very calm. But apparently, what happened, what got me really arrested was the cop. Apparently, I said to a cop, "I am God, and we're all gonna die."
Wow.
So I guess they perceived that as a threat.
Yeah.
And I was in and out of consciousness. In the next thing that pushed me into consciousness was pain, because the cop took me down, and I've actually got where are those glasses? glasses are broken in half, but the cop did it like a George Floyd on my neck, like with
Okay.
my face and eye socket into the asphalt. I woke up thinking that was going to pop. And then I looked over and I
Wow.
saw the woman that I hugged, along with a few other people, like filming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then, yeah, so I got taken back to the same hospital for triage. I remember doing crazy stuff there, but I didn't have control of it. Like I threw a pan, like I was handcuffed there as well, but I threw like a medical pan across the room, which
Mm.
got me a policeman to come sit on me, not physically, but like hang out there with me.
Right, right.
And I remember saying things that were along the lines of, in that God sort of universe,
Mhm.
I was telling people the world was going to end today, things
You
like that.
remember saying those things.
I do remember saying those things.
It's interesting that
Yeah.
you remember it, but like what was the feeling about any
You're
realization why or controlling it? Like what?
outside of your body.
Yeah,
I have no
yeah.
idea.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. There were a couple other incidents of mild psychosis that went on in my house.
Mm-hmm.
And one night, I actually went to go talk to my ex in our bedroom because we had separated at that time. And then I realized she had locked the door, and that triggered me into something. And I ended up thinking that I was the second coming of Christ. And I started speaking and preaching to my sister that the
Wow.
pandemic was going to end, that my wife would lose her fear, and blah, blah, blah. So
Wow.
yeah, it's real. Like when you hear Kanye talking about being close to God, like there's something about this
Mm-hmm.
in your brain that gets you close.
That's
And
interesting.
I've
Yeah.
got incredible things that I'm writing about in my book.
Oh my God, I can't wait to hear. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
always listening to Kanye's, my son plays a lot of Kanye in the car and talks
yeah,
about that.
yeah,
Um, and it's anyway, I'm going to let you talk about it because I think it's really fascinating because when other people, especially when they're in law enforcement or they're in medical or they don't know and there's so much fear and you think they're crazy and we see people especially on the
yeah,
street going through things and you have no idea what they're going through. And to
yeah. I
hear
mean,
this,
that's the thing. That's
go ahead.
what I really want to do most with my book is just shine a light on how horrible these institutions are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially the public ones. I mean, I haven't been to any other state besides California, but the two that I experienced in California were horrific.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
can't believe they're open. It's interesting. My after after I came home from one of them, my aunt, God bless her, she's like, "Hey, I read the Yelp reviews on that place." I was like, "What?" And there are actually Yelp reviews on these places, and you should
Yeah.
read them and read what people experienced. I
Wow.
mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of 1 stars and a lot of just people telling the horrors of what happened there.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, and I mean that's a public place. It's a public arena for people to put that. And that's what I want to also talk about in this piece is one of the things that you were talking to me about initially is also that all these systems, like not just there's support systems that failed you. So you had some other things going on already in your relationship
Yeah,
that were coming to light. So you didn't have the support system of your partner being there. You didn't have the support system necessarily of your family being there. And then
right.
you were in these systems that were already toxic, not working, and not meant to actually help people.
Yeah.
So, to talk a little bit about that, I want to dig a little deeper in a minute, but to talk a little bit about that feeling of, I mean, I guess it would be how you feel about it now, because when you're in it, that feeling of being lost in it. I can't even, I'm really good at putting myself in other people's shoes and asking questions about something. I cannot put myself in those shoes, having not experienced that, and ask a question about what does that feel like to feel
It's
stuck and lost in that?
so scary because they make you take the medicine
Yeah.
and you don't know what the medicine is. You know,
Yeah.
I straight up told them that when I first landed. So the second incarceration I had was a 5250. That wasn't 3 days, that was 2 weeks. And if
Oh,
you think about it, 2 weeks, 14, 24-hour days, it's a lot to spend in a place like that. But
yeah.
I mean, I was just scared that I was going to come out completely damaged. and
Mm-hmm.
be a frequent visitor at those places
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
of what I saw, the total disregard. Like the first time I went in the medicine line at the 2 week place, and I already knew that the medicine they were giving me for depression was killing me. That's what they gave me. And when I said, I'm not taking this, the man recoiled. I'll always remember how angry he was at me. And I later found out why. He recoiled and he goes, "You will take this medicine. You do belong here. You absolutely belong here." Just so mean. And I was like, "I'm not
Wow.
taking this medicine. It makes me sick. Please go look at my records." I don't even know what they ended up giving me or what I signed up to take after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he wasn't the only one that was super mean to me. And then I finally figured it out because I was brought in there simply with 2 words saying abused women. That my hug, because I think that's what I forgot to tell you about the hug. It was
Yeah.
marked as, assault. Like that, I didn't know that woman. And so when the police came, she charged me with assault.
Mm.
That was on my
Wow.
record, simply, no circumstances, just abused women.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I got treated like that. I
Wow.
I mean, any staffer was just seemed like ultra pissed off at me. Um, it
Wow.
was they assigned me the most violent roommates. It took me a while to figure that out, about halfway through the 2 weeks, why I
Yeah.
was getting attacked every night.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. So you get kind of
it's
labels hung on you and you get
there's
thrown wherever you get thrown.
but there's no care there. They're managing
Yeah.
inmates, and there's
Yeah.
everyone. I mean, my God, there was a young man, probably 16 years old, that had autism. There
Mm.
was a woman, about 50 years old, maybe 55, that had dementia.
Mm-hmm.
They're all, and then it's like drug addicts. They spring off the street. They all
Yeah.
sleep in the same room because they all go to bed at 4. But it's just a jail for mentally ill people, and the only care that comes in there are outsiders with lanyards on their neck to conduct the group therapy sessions,
Yeah. Yeah.
which are a joke when you consider the severeness of people's mental health, like the schizophrenics. And
Right. Right.
I mean, it was a joke.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're mixing all kinds of different people who need different care. You're giving them medicines that are probably not what they need and
Yeah,
making everything worse. And you're just having this big cocktail of everything together in the worst possible situation. And nobody feels safe. Like what I always pride myself on in my environment with structure is about creating a safe space for people to share and do what they need to do. And
yeah,
growing up in a martial arts and self-defense background with women's self-defense and stuff, it's all about creating safety. There's no safety in any of that. And that's going to set everyone off in all the worst possible ways.
yeah.
And then the people working there are not equipped to deal with all that, you know.
Yeah, I mean the people working there, besides the people coming in for group therapy, are most of them are part-time,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. And not
and
paid
the
well.
ones that aren't part-time have been there on a 12-hour shift,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I
Yeah.
literally every white coat I saw in there, I would try to tell them what happened to me and get help. And when
Mm.
I finally got a group of doctors, my doctor being one of them, to stop in the hall so I could tell them what happened to me. They all kind of chuckled and said, "That sounds like a scene from the Wolverine."
Oh God. Wow.
I know.
Wow. Wow. Okay, I want to go back a little bit into where your first support system started to fail. There's a few things I kind of want to go back to, but I want to take little steps back before we go forward. And one is the relationship with your ex-wife. And we talked a little bit about that there were things that were already breaking down in that, earlier on, you were saying that also related to, just places that you were in your life earlier, but that, that support system broke down for you here. So you didn't have somebody to advocate for you.
No.
And that's the thing is, like, when you are in a state like this, you can't advocate easily for yourself. And if nobody else is advocating for you,
Yeah.
you're out there alone. And that's how people get lost, right? And so what happened there, or what do you think, what do you want to talk about in that space of that support system initially? It kind of feels like that was like a catalyst that helped get you into this situation.
I think I blame myself as a support system for myself. I shouldn't
Mm,
have gone outside, and I knew better, but I was just thought that she had something. I don't know, but I
yeah,
let myself down. But
yeah,
my marriage just hadn't been great for years, and it sort of settled into what it was, and which was manageable. But it's super weak when something goes awry,
yeah,
and this was this was that moment for me. I think
yeah.
what I know now is that her mother knew somebody that was bipolar, and her
Mm,
mother got really riled up that I could become violent. And so,
mm,
um,
she was
at least
afraid.
that's some insight that my sister told me when she was here helping us, or there helping us.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I love when that when you say it's like it's letting myself down because ultimately as we go back and I had to do that with a lot of my stuff in my own life. Why did this happen? Why did this happen? Then why did this happen? And it all comes back down to kind of this initial thing that we feel about ourselves,
yeah,
right? That starts really early. Mine started at the get-go. Um, and that also comes into the thing about your work, feeling like whatever work it's almost as if it didn't matter what work you were doing, designing t-shirts. I mean, lots of cool t-shirts that everybody wears, right? With all kinds of messages and stuff. You probably would have felt bad about anything you were doing. Ultimately, that's what I've learned
yeah.
about myself. But I want to kind of come in and talk about that. Like, have you like where did that feeling really start for you, do you think? That feeling of not being good enough.
Oh
It,
gosh.
is it that? Is
Um,
that the feeling? That's
oh no, no, no. If you had asked me before any of this started, and I never saw a psychiatrist, I should have. My sister tried to kill herself when she was 16.
mm,
Um, and that started things in my head, kind of.
yeah,
But if you had asked me, I would have, my psychological state before all this happened, I would have told you that I have low self-esteem.
hmm,
And I would have traced that back to my dad.
yeah,
Um, but what I now know I had was just a low grade depression, you know, but not like, I mean, I was a functional depressed person, like I got out of bed, I did the stuff. But I know that now because of how I feel. And what's incredible, Shell, is that, if say this is baseline and I was running at like a low grade depression here,
mm,
luckily I reset here. Like I don't know if it's my medicine management, but I feel like I've learned so much in the past few years from this ex experience where I almost lost myself and I had to figure out what I was when I came back.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
I love
I don't know
that.
if I can articulate
Oh,
that.
this is, I mean, because okay, so I'm not going to go into my story because this isn't my story here, but before I got my design degree, which I got finished up my design degree and a business degree in my early 30s, I didn't start my career until I was in my early 30s
Mhm.
because I needed to go through my 20s and get healed, basically. And all through my 20s, I realized somehow that I would do the same thing. Here's baseline, and here's me. I don't know how to exist like a normal person. And I got to
Mhm.
figure out how to just live normally. And as I started to really grow and change, I said, well, I'm just going to keep shooting up as far as I can go and not ever be normal then. And, but I used that baseline thing and I knew I was down here and I couldn't
Mhm.
seem to exist like normal people.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
understand that piece. And then when you're able to go, I'm up here now and I can take off and do all kinds of things, thank God. It's a really strong awareness, a self awareness of where you are and what
Yeah.
you've been through. And
If you
it's
can remove that self-doubt.
yeah, it in a lot of ways, yeah. I mean, it comes back for me. And I always have to kind of wrestle with certain things, but at least now I'm wrestling up here. And and I'm terrified. I think I always exist. I'm terrified to ever be back down here, but I already know that I never will be. That
Yeah.
you've come out of that
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I feel.
Yeah. So, um, kind of coming and finding your way back, through this. And I'm sure there's going to be so much to read about in the book.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
that's going to be an amazing thing that I think people who have stories like this, there's all these hidden pieces are going to relate to.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the people that you met in your healing,
Yeah.
that help pull you out of or helped you in the process of
It's
finding your
incredible.
way
It's
back.
incredible. It's actually an incredible story, and I would dare to say biblical in my life.
Mm.
I was feeling really down. I was right in the middle of, being isolated in LA and trying to figure my stuff out. But I cut the grass. I was really dirty. And I was like, I'm just going to walk down to this little sort of plaza I'd seen down the road, but never really investigated because it was always the perimeter was all homeless encampments during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, I went to this burrito shop and I sort of found my way through into this plaza. Got my $11 burrito. I'm looking like dirt, sweaty. I looked homeless, and so I was sitting there eating my burrito and just admiring this beautiful plaza, which had like a bike shop, this interesting place that I was checking out that looked like were giving away some stuff. It looked like there was a skate shop that had closed during COVID, but I then found out that it was actually opening. It was a brand new black owned
Uh,
skate shop.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this place is called Lemert Park, and it's incredible. It's got incredible history, incredible culture. Anyway, I was sitting there eating my burrito, checking out this store where they were giving stuff away, it looked like in bags. And this woman just makes a beeline and walks right towards me. She says, "Hello, sir. Do you need some food?" And I sort of chuckled and I go, "No, I'm eating an $11 burrito." And she laughed. And I said, "Well, what is this place over here? Who do you work for?" She goes, I'm the PR person for Soul Folks. I was like, "Oh, cool. What's that?" And she said, it's a black design consignment kind of deal. Come check it out." And it was this huge space. And the moment I walked in there, I was just blown away because, I come from a world of developing product for big corporations, and now I'm doing my own thing. But to get into that environment where there were probably like in this environment, there's 20 black artists that are, they each have different sections, and it's
Mm.
incredible stuff from like jewelry to apparel to bags to hats to outerwear. I mean, and I was just freaking out. My friend Lauren, she's a good friend now, is taking me through all this. I was like, this is incredible. And we ended up exchanging information, like bumping iPhones, and I had mine's all filled out with like my portfolio and stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't give her a hug because I was dirty at the time, but I said, "Goodbye, it was really nice meeting you." I went back to my house, and about halfway home, she called me. She's like, "Oh my God, I just looked at your portfolio. One thing she called out, she's like, 'You were the creative director for Blue Marlin?'" And I was like, "Yeah." And that was a very popular line back in the day.
Yeah.
And it just made me feel incredible. And so she said, "Well, would you be open to possibly mentoring with this organization?" I was like, "Oh my gosh," it was like a dream,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and so I didn't end up doing that. But I did end up like kind of, this was my new home. Like this, I
Mm.
felt such kinship here.
Mm.
The founder, his name, and mainly because of the nature of the founder, his name is Akil West. And before he opened this, he had been incarcerated for like 14 or 15 years for like a third strike on just like a petty theft thing.
Mm.
So he really built this this is his purpose. He's building this community for designers. He also did it with actress Nika King and Taz Arnold, who's also a
Mm.
designer.
Yep. Yep.
But anyway, I just, that was kind of my new social place. There was music. Like I saw my first live music after the pandemic there. I was in Mania, but it felt like it was magical, and it was.
Mm.
Um, but it was incredible. They had a skate shop, which is called Neighbors Skate Shop. I think they just did a deal with Nike. Um,
Oh,
I met this
nice.
incredible person. I don't know how much time I have, but this is another little story. I
We have the time that you want to have. So
Okay,
that's the
cool.
nice thing about this.
Okay, cool. So one cool thing I participated in, I spent so much time down there. It was great, like an incredible community. This guy that was heading up a organization to clean up the homeless encampments, like
Hmm.
resettle them, but clean it up from around Leimert Park.
Yep.
Enlisted me to help do a cleanup. And I was working alongside probably five or six gentlemen, and this one guy lost his phone. He figured out that he must have dropped his phone into one of the garbage bags.
Oh, yeah,
We
yeah.
tried calling it and everything, but it was not, you couldn't hear it.
Hmm.
I kind of figured out, I was like, hey, if you trust me, like log into my phone as yours and we'll ping it. We get that high pitch frequency thing.
Yeah.
And that worked. So he's like, hey, man, come by my coffee shop down the street. We could
Yeah.
have a coffee or whatever. It's like, that's cool. So I went to the coffee shop, got a coffee, and then I realized in that coffee shop there was a little adjunct gallery. And I started, and then there was all this apparel and printed stuff. And I started, I just made my way in there and looked around. And all of a sudden this like real quiet voice says, hey, how's it going? And it's this guy sitting there with a mask. I was like, I'm just checking out this stuff. It's incredible. He's like, yeah, thanks. It's mine. I was like, oh, it's incredible. So he and I sat down, started talking. And he's kind of my age, maybe a little bit older, probably my age. And he introduces himself as Tony Magnetic. And then we both realized that we were designing apparel and graphics back in the 90s at the same time. He was one of the founders of Mecca
Oh, nice.
brand.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
barely.
I, had done stuff with Blue Marlin, which he knew, but we were both
Hmm.
talking about we both go to Magic and stuff like that. And I'd always go check out Mecca. And he said that he would check out. So it was just like stuff like that, that
Yeah.
rekindled me with my spirit of creativity around ultimately creative people
Yeah.
and this black loving community that helped me heal so much.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the arts, the creativity, the community, the family. I mean, I live in Oakland now. I've
Yeah.
lived here for a long time. And I'm in a building in a very industrial part of Oakland that's full of graffiti and painting and beautiful artists and stuff here of all walks of life. And, as gritty as some of that can really feel, it's like those are the people that live within these communities, whoever they are, and it's often artists, creative people.
Yeah.
They understand the value of humanity and connection. And that's the heart of things and taking care of each other. Because in a city like Oakland, everybody has to kind of take care of each other because
Yeah.
otherwise, because there isn't like some big system taking care of you and cleaning everything up for you. You have to do it yourself. You have to come together, and it's amazing what you can
Yeah.
find. A lot of people are afraid of it, and they live in their pristine areas and their gated communities and stuff. And I guess just and being part of it can feel a little rough. But at the same time, like when you realize that these people are real, there's no bullshit. There's no facade, you know what I mean? And there's just like you said, the creativity, the music, the art. Um, God, it just the food.
What's down there the most is the love.
Yeah.
There's just so much love. It's the most loving community I've ever had the privilege of being adjacent to in my life. Like it was, yeah, just
Like
love everywhere.
you were saying too, when they found out the work that you had done, who you've worked with and what
Yeah.
what you've done, that it showed you felt more it showed the value that your work had in people's eyes
Yeah.
that you didn't think was there. Why do you think that we get to those places where we can't see that value in it?
I don't know. I don't know. It all got stripped away from me, and it was the only thing when I looked inside that defined me, you know? And
Hmm.
so I learned early on when building back that I had gotten kind of complacent with my creativity and my opportunities, because they just always seem to come. And I guess when you don't
Right,
have them coming anymore,
right,
you know,
right.
but what what keeps me centered is creativity and thriving. That's what I've always been able to put my energy into, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm lucky that way. Maybe I would have been diagnosed earlier if I had worse circumstances growing up and I put my energy into stealing cars or, you know.
Yeah, right.
So,
It
yeah.
surfaces at different times for different
Yeah.
people. In fact, I think in some ways, I went through a lot of traumatic stuff in my 20s. And I had great mentors and women who were older than me. One who was a Montessori trainer, and she had said, "Wow, you're going through things now that people don't go through until they're at least in their 40s or 50s or never." Which was a
Wow.
lot of learning about yourself and self-reflection and having to go into a lot of therapy. And for me, I was so thankful that I went through it because I was disappearing from a direction just by the time I was 21. And I don't think I ever would have gotten on a good path. I was not on a path to go anywhere. And so sometimes we need that piece that we have to go through to get us on a path that is more impactful and aligned, you know? And I think a lot
Yeah.
of us, if we don't go through that, if we don't go through something, we sometimes we create it for ourselves or we have to go find it and go find meaning. Yeah, I'm not sure, what that's like for people who don't experience something that pushes them deeper within themselves. I'm curious, like, kind of veering off some of my questions.
Mhm.
I want to connect where you are now, what you've been through with your creativity, and how you got into design in the first place. Um, and maybe there's that piece of like how you got into design and what that meant for you and how that was your identity before. And how is it different in your identity now, reconnecting to creativity in this new place? There's kind of two questions being held at the same time.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? It's popping up within me going, I want to understand how you got into being creative, having a creative job, like graphic
Hmm.
design, and moving into, how doing t-shirt design is just a platform of,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah, and then how that's shifted now as you're reconnecting to your creativity in a new way.
Yeah. I mean, I was always creative growing up, and maybe it was that energy, but I was creative in different ways. Like I grew up on a farm and I had tons of guns. And I remember my dad, at first he got mad at me, but then he realized I could put it back together. I took the whole thing apart, and then put it back together. And then I would do stuff like that. Like in college, I made speakers and stuff like that. But I always loved, like, from grade 1 to grade 12 to college, I excelled in art classes.
Yeah.
And that was my interest. And in college, I was able to negotiate, because I was, you know, fortunate that my college was paid for by my parents. But I said, yeah, I'll do a business minor if I do a art major. And I guess you could say that actually served me getting into sort of the commercial arts. But there was actually something I remember when I was like in fifth or sixth grade taking a field trip to an advertising agency,
Mm.
and they had the Oscar Mayer Wiener account. And what got me is like I was there watching this guy do an old school layout
Yeah.
for building a new billboard, and out the window I could see the existing billboard, and I just thought that was magical, like producing something that's seen by a lot of people.
It's right there. If it's right there, you can
Yeah.
really see it. He's doing paste up and layout. That's how I was taught in the
Yes,
80s
exactly,
as
with like
well.
wax and
Yep, the wax and the
um
the, the machine and
exactonize, and yes,
Exactonize, the blue line pen, all of this stuff.
had
Yeah.
a certain smell too.
Yes, absolutely. I
But so
remember.
that's what kind of got me into it. And then, I was just really lucky to get into Nike, my first job.
Mm,
I went to this once I got out of college with that art major and business minor. I was right back in the restaurant trade, But then I learned about this school called Portfolio Center. It was like a 2-year program, and you would basically just go in there and build a portfolio to
Mm.
show, and that's what I didn't have, a commercial portfolio.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got out of there and I had already made the decision that I wanted to work for Nike because at Portfolio Center on Thursdays, they have alumni come back. And this guy named John Norman, who's amazing, came and showed all of his work that he was doing at Nike. And I was just like, that's what I want to do. My sister had moved out here. I'm
Yeah.
currently in Portland. My
Okay.
sister had moved out here a couple of years before I did, and just by coming out here, I knew it was a place I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I came out here and I was just about ready to start my job at Kinko's when finally I got called at Nike and just got in as a freelancer. Um,
Nice.
but then my career has just, I started there. That was true like brand design.
Hmm.
But back when, digital wasn't around, so we were doing tons of print, tons of store
It,
environments.
what year, like around what time frame is
This was like
this?
94 to 98.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
might. I'm
early.
sure we know some similar people too, because I was
Yeah.
up in Portland. Well, I hit Portland in 90 and was there till 2007
It was a cool
before I
time to
met
be there.
you.
There were a lot of
Yeah.
like fundamental design stuff being made at that time, that's
Yeah.
still around today. But
Pre-digital,
um
right.
yeah. But
Yeah,
then,
totally.
after that I got into product. I think my next job was Old Navy, still marketing. Then I went to Levi's and started working on product and doing t-shirts and stuff along with marketing.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so anyway, that's kind of was my career path. And um yeah, and like I told you, I just got to a point where I was like, oh, t-shirts, eh. And so I got sort of steered my career into marketing. I was doing marketing at Old Navy and then for MedMen when I went
Mm,
there. Um, but literally when I was in the 2-week hold and trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, and I mean, they were still feeding me all those drugs. There's days in there that I don't remember, you
yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
I was told on one of them that I took my clothes off. Um,
Wow.
I
To not
know,
know that, to
I
hear
know,
that must have
I
been
know,
insane. Oh my God.
I know. But I literally, what the best thing that happens to you if you ever have the unfortunate circumstances of being put into one of these places, they take your phone away. And it was really nice, I will say. And I practiced this on my own, is like parking your phone and just doing everything analog. So I ended up like
Wow.
sketching out the brand that I wanted to work for.
Yeah.
And it was my brand. And it was a brand that gives back. So I figured out then I was alone. Nobody was going to help me with anything. No one's hiring me. I need to make this thing for myself.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
to make
God.
it for myself, I wanted to do good. And
Yeah.
the scale of doing good will depend on how my business grows. So I'm stoked. I'm working with a small agency right now that is I'm going to work with some influencers for Reach, and we're just basically redoing the entire website
Mhm.
and experience and email flows and all that to make
Mm.
sure that I'm ultimately profitable because I just want to keep on upping that level of giving, you know?
That I'm almost in tears here. The reason being too is because it triggers a lot for either what I've already been through, where I'm going, and the
Yeah.
people that I connect with and talk to. And we're all, what I love is in a lot of ways, when we were younger, we all kind of met each other and found each other in these jobs that we all
Mhm.
had. We all kind of moved around a lot of the same companies and stuff. And now in midlife, we all kind of went through some shit and we're finding each other in a new place, in a new time, in a world that's totally new,
Yeah.
and have a new resolve. And a big part of that resolve, I think, as you just said, is the same I have, which is no one's come to save you. No one's, this is like, for me, it was like, I got kicked out, kind of squeezed out of the whole corporate thing when I became an older mom. And when you finally realize, like, oh, I got to do this myself, I've got to make this happen. And then there's a freedom that comes with that.
Yeah.
And the idea of like that mission that's driving it. This is where we find the mission. I'm like, okay, if this is what the second half of life is about, I'm all in. Have at it.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone else who's doing it, it's like I just want to be there for you, for everyone who's doing that. So yeah, how do you feel about your creative work now?
I mean, I feel really good. Creativity is taking a different path. Like
Yeah.
I've told you I'm writing a book.
Yeah.
And I love it. I've never been a writer. I never thought I could be a writer. And again, that's the thing is like, don't hold yourself back.
Yeah.
Like, is this bipolar mania saying I can be a best-selling author? No, these are, and this is that fine line that I'm going back to from like half an hour ago is yes, you can do it all. That's not over believing in yourself.
Yeah.
That's the power of like positive thinking
Yeah. There,
and
that is a fine
manifestation.
line. Yeah.
And everything, now that I've opened my mind to that, everything's coming to me. The help that I need, the
Yeah.
publisher, the I mean, it's great. So I'm finding creativity in many different forms.
Well, it's like the mission is pulling you forward. It's
Yeah,
like when you're drawn to do something. Like I've had a few things in my life where I've had to really make. I've been really drawn to make big changes. I look back on it and I go, how the hell? Oh my God, what compelled me to do that? I don't even know how I got through that.
yeah,
When something is pulling you through, and it's a mission that's bigger than yourself, so we don't get caught up in our own insecurities about things, right?
yeah, yeah,
And then it's like you said, oh, I'm just doing t-shirts. No, I'm doing t-shirts that have this meaning on it. And there's a whole story behind it. And the thing that I learned about training in my years of martial arts with my community there is the energy that's behind something. This is the whole thing behind my blog, the hunting the paper tiger, is the paper tiger is the facade with nothing behind it. It's what's behind it. That's what people feel, right?
hmm
So in wearing your sweatshirt, it's not just a sweatshirt with when people see it, they feel an energy behind it that they can't describe, right?
Oh my gosh, like I wore this off a yeah, especially when I wear the diagnosis. I came out
Yeah.
with the diagnosis lines and line, and it's in parody with corporate branding and to make it look familiar and make you look twice, you know. I think that's what resonates with people sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited. I'm going to open studios tonight in Portland. And the last time I wore this hat at a street fair, I had three people stop me and hug me and ask me where they could get it. And
Hmm.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
And me in this, I told you I was in a state now of kind of rising above here. Like I shine. I feel magnetism, and that's not a brag. That's how my
Right.
positive energy brings people in. Like people want to talk to me about the hat and they want to talk to me about the sweatshirt.
Yeah.
What's that mean, you know? And I'm happy to talk about it. It's like it's about mental health. And if you buy this, you'll support mental health.
And why do you
Um,
think people want to talk to you about it?
I don't know because I'm smiling real big at them. I'm not sure. Um, I think this because nobody wears this. You know, it's traditionally nothing that you advertise. And I've told my friends and family like the only way for me through the experience that I had, which included jail at the end of the 2 weeks, was to just let everybody know what happened to me, you know? Because
Yeah.
what happened to me can I didn't do anything wrong. And what happened to me can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know if I have a partner for the rest of my life, but if I do, she's going to be well versed in what she needs to do if I have a panic attack,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and surrounding yourself with people that, you know, I want people to know my deal so that I can call them and be, I'm feeling a little edgy. Can you come over here and talk me down? Or I need a ride to the emergency room, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
In that case.
It's asking for, I mean, how do you say asking for help? But it's asking for support. Yeah,
Yeah.
but also in that willingness to like, I'll be support too. We're all here to support. That's that thing I was talking about the culture too, about cultures that support each other. Knowing like, well, it's us. We're doing it. And that's often what I feel about Gen X is, a lot of us grew up as latchkey kids, taking care of ourselves, taking care of each other, growing each other up.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about a lot of us now because Gen X is going through a really midlife is rough. And we did not grow up asking for a lot of help. We grew up trusting systems that were
Yeah.
built outside of our realm. Like we were told to do this job, learn this, do these things, conform. And we did that, and the systems are failing in so many ways. And so for me, I feel like we've got so much power and creativity to take the reins and build something new. And that comes from caring about each other because we've really gotten to a place of a lack of caring. And I think it's interesting that you talk about your phone because that wasn't a piece I was going to talk about here, but that you said that
Discussion.
there is a piece of like putting that down and reconnecting to yourself, to the people around you, to your own thing that I think is really that we're starting to really want to
Well,
go
I
for.
mean, the phone is just like you don't need to have all that information. It's just going to stress you out, you know?
It's totally,
Like I
totally,
don't look at news anymore. Like that's off my phone. Like I can't look at that
yeah,
anymore, you know?
yeah.
I like to be
But
informed, but not stressed.
yeah, and it wasn't necessarily the phone, but it was the social media platforms or the LinkedIn and things that help connect people to
Yeah.
hear your story, a platform that was great. I wanted to ask you in our like in the book writing, as you get this story out, um, what is the most important thing for you to say in it? Like you want to share all of this. What do you want people to get out of it? Where do you want it to lead? What is the intention behind it?
I would want people to walk away with an empathy for people with mental health issues. Don't be scared. Like
Yeah,
talk to them, help them. I mean, just help people, you know? Um, but also make sure your closest people know what to do when you can't talk.
yeah.
Definitely have a support system there, you know? Don't take anything for granted.
Mm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
I wish that I could have been diagnosed without the drama.
Yeah,
And I just never had really any opportunity or need to, you know, besides back in high school when my sister had her thing. It was upsetting to me, but then we just all forgot about it,
right, right.
and it's never been mentioned since.
Yeah,
But I would love people just to feel comfortable talking about it. Like, and I would hope that I don't dissuade people from going to get help and diagnosed for something. What happened to me was not uncommon. It's a mistake that can be made quite often because both contain depression. Um, but I mean, I don't know how to fix this. It's bigger than me, but
yeah,
the system is awful.
yeah,
I mean, and it's just herding people into an environment, giving them drugs and pushing them back out again, usually in worse shape than they came in,
yeah.
you
Mm,
know?
mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I think that is a huge piece. The biggest thing is awareness. People even knowing that this is happening, that it exists, but that when you see somebody struggling in your family, in your own life on the street,
yeah,
you can't solve everything, but to have a little bit of compassion.
yeah,
And even starting from there of kind of going, how can you just feeling more like reminding yourself not to be so judgmental is a place we jump to judgment a lot, I think. And I love that you've brought love, that self-love into um, your life, your name, your work. It really drew me into because I grew up with my name is Michelle Rose. Rose was my adopted name from my father, and it's a really important name for me.
mhm.
My best friend in first grade was Michelle Love, Michelle Rose and Michelle Love.
Well,
And I thought she was so cool. I just was like, I always thought she was cooler than me. But that always stuck with me when I hear that, reminds me of her. Um, so what does and I'm also a big believer that in order to have love and compassion for others, we have to start with ourselves.
mhm.
What does that self-love look like for you now that you had to discover that piece? Because we haven't really talked about that, but you've talked about that in your posts and stuff about finding that self-love.
Yeah, just absolutely prioritizing myself above everything when I need to, you know? I am very regimented with my exercise. I am very regimented with my sleep. And now, thank God, due to my diagnosis and my medicine, I can sleep. Um, but it means going easy on myself. You know, if I have a day where I look back like I didn't accomplish that much, like remembering what you did accomplish, you know, maybe for your spirituality or your emotional well-being by pausing for a minute, you know. Um, but it's critical. I mean, I honestly hated myself for years, and it was a mantra, like, and kind of along with that suicidal idea. I remember hearing that Kurt Cobain died in the same article that they talked about how he wanted to name one of his albums "I Hate Myself and Want to Die."
Yeah.
And when I heard that, like after I would get in fights with my or arguments with my ex, I would walk away just beating myself up and saying that and literally saying I want to die. So I think part of this is just like, you know, God saying, holding you to that. Yeah, okay, you want to see how bad it can be?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then that's what I mean, being in a suicidal vest in an empty cell block in LA County Jail for 24 hours. I had nothing. I didn't have clothes to keep me warm. I was just like this flak jacket you couldn't kill yourself with, you know?
Wow.
That's when I determined that there's nobody here for me. It's just me in this cell.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
I got here. I mean, that whole time, nobody would tell me why I was there.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You, I think this is also where your book is going to be so incredibly valuable, is getting so close to the fire
Yeah.
that people you don't want to get that close to know this stuff and figure this out, right?
Just the scary thing, it can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
Just like that.
And you
Like
made it out.
you get swallowed up in a system.
Yeah.
I did make it out. And I made it out with my head. I wasn't sure that was going to happen. I thought I was going to be permanently damaged.
Oh my God. I just, I think the thing that amazes me is also this is not that long of a span of time, you know? It's a
Yeah.
lot. But, like I think about how I knew you before, and then I see you now, and I'm like, it's the same person. It's very head to get, meaning not the same person, but I don't see somebody who's had a problem or been damaged or anything like that. I see the person I knew, which was somebody who was creative, a leader, really organized and had their shit together. And I still
Thank you.
see that, you know, but that you have gone through this whole world in and out the other side. And here you are as a completely different person or a new experience. I'm just, I know that feeling within myself too, that, um, but it's amazing to me that we can go through that and come out the other side and be better than ever.
Yeah, it is amazing. Don't think there wasn't a point where I thought when I got out, like, this is it. This is the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to sit with that for a second.
But I didn't.
I'm so grateful, and I'm so grateful for you and the people like you in my life that I've been able to talk to like this and know and are still here and around because I do know people in my life who aren't around anymore, who didn't make
Same.
it through, right? And those of us who do make it through, we share it. We help others through. And
Yeah.
I'm really glad you're writing the book. I'm glad you have guidance and support to do that and get that out there and the brand,
Thank you.
you know. I love it. I'm like, I want that sweatshirt right there.
Give me your address and your size.
I will happily purchase one, but because
Okay,
I
cool.
also like to support. But thank you so much for. I mean, I could talk about so much more, but I think this is This is good for our first conversation. We can talk more after the book is out too.
Yeah, this has been amazing. I'd love to come back and discuss. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. This episode has been brought to you by Struktur Society, a multimedia publishing and community platform tracking and translating how creativity, business, and technology shape culture in the age of AI across design, art, and music. Through writing, podcasting, and live events, we share insights, prompts, and practices for modern creative leadership. Search Struktur Society on Substack.